When you are in the courtroom in a murder trial, there's the understanding that that person is never coming back. That person's life has been taken. My first murder trial. So I've done two. I was second chair on one of them, and then I was lead counsel on the second one. And so, some attorneys will never touch a murder trial. You could be practicing for 2, 3, 4 decades and never touch a murder trial. There's only so many homicides that happen, right? As opposed to, your DUIs, run-of-the-mill domestic violence, drug crimes, all of that. And so I was second chair in this homicide trial, and my friend and mentor Jose Badillo, if there's any attorneys in the building, you probably know who he is, an amazing trial lawyer, brought me on to this trial. And it was really big, instrumental, monumental for my career, because it was a media case. When I was giving my opening statement, I was on TV looking dapper, had a nice little bow tie and everything. I was it was a real moment in my career. But the thing that has to be understood is that was a murder trial, and like I said at the last live about the Nipsey Hussle murder trial that's coming up. Listen, when you are in the courtroom in a murder trial, there's the understanding that that person is never coming back. That person's life has been taken. And you're going to have family members in that courtroom who have to sit up, listen to testimony from a medical examiner testifying as an expert as to the exact scientific breakdown of how that person lost their life. And it's hard to sit up and listen to. It really is, especially if that's your loved one, if that's your son, if that's your brother, if that's your dad, whoever it is to you, if that's your best friend, your uncle, and you have to sit up and listen to that testimony. That's hard to do. And so oftentimes in these trials, you will hear people shrieking, you'll hear people crying, gasps. It can be tough. And so in this particular trial, you heard just that. The whole side of that courtroom was packed. And then on our side, our clients, a couple family members would trickle in here and there, but usually they'll separate, the sides of the courtroom, almost like you go to a wedding, there's a bride side, the groom side. It's the same way. In these type of trials, you have people who are on the victim side, and then you have people who, are on the accused side, the defendant side. And this trial, the way he to have lost his life was being beat to death, right? So our client basically was accused of having pummeled the victim to death, and it was hard to listen to, and it was hard. But in the end, and we defended that thing. We threw everything that we had at it, and ultimately our client was in fact convicted. But the thing, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, is at the end of the trial, oftentimes the judge will, when they excuse the jurors, they say, hey, you can go outside and you can wait for the lawyers to come out. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And so we go outside, and some of the jurors are talking. A lot of times they'll go and talk to the prosecutors more so than defense attorneys. But as we were going out, and there's people, there's media, cameras, and all this stuff, family members of the victim came up to me and Jose, my co-counsel, and they said, we want to thank you for handling your defense with such class and such grace. And I really believe that, when they say God works in mysterious ways, I really believe that. And I believe that God speaks to us through each other, and God speaks to me quite often through other people. And I believe that he spoke to me on that day, letting me know that, hey, listen, because there's a lot of people, and even me in law school, I had that thought, because I didn't go to law school to become a criminal defense attorney, but I had that thought in my mind. I thought I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. I thought I wanted to go into the business world. The thought came in my mind, like, how could you defend somebody who's guilty? How could you defend somebody who's done these horrible things? Because you're naive, you don't know. And now I understand more than ever, obviously, having been in this going into now my 15th year, that everybody deserves a defense. Everybody has constitutional rights. The minute we start to pick and choose who has constitutional rights and who doesn't, based on what they're charged with, that's when we become any other third world country, if you will, that does not believe in people's constitutional rights, the presumption of innocence, the burden of proof being on the prosecution versus the other way around. In some countries where you're guilty until you're proven innocent. And so again, it's easy to think about these things legally and just say, oh, well, I'm defending the Constitution, I'm upholding the Constitution, which I'm doing. But to have the family members of someone who lost their life, someone who's never coming back, come up to us and tell us that, I mean, that had to be God. Because number one, they could have been just thinking it. And I can see how they would think that, because that's how we handle ourselves. We're thorough, we're meticulous, we fight hard for our clients, but we do it with class and grace. We're not disrespectful to victims. We're not disrespectful to law enforcement officers. We're not disrespectful to anyone in the courtroom for that matter, but we fight hard and it shows. And so for God to tell me through those people, because even if they had it in their mind, for them to approach us and say that, you know, that meant the world to me in that moment, that people who lost a family member would find it in their hearts to come up and thank us, thank the very people who were defending the person who took their loved one's life, and say that to us. So that just goes to show that you can do this with class and grace and still work very hard for your clients.